Right now on a special edition of To The Point, celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. Over the next 30 minutes, we're exploring what Sacramento's Japantown used to look like.
We used to run around all over. We used to play hide and seek till 9, 10 o'clock.
How one Chinese American veteran found community in America during World War II.
I think young people should learn about history, about war.
One group celebrating local families' histories through food.
That is like sharing some of the best parts of the culture.
Plus, keeping Filipino culture alive through martial arts.
I look at this as my safety.
And we're hearing your stories, what it's like to be Asian American in Northern California. This is a special edition of To The Point. I'm Alex Bell, and we are celebrating all of our diverse communities. And tonight we're exploring AAPI heritage and their stories and the challenge to keep culture alive. So here is who we're talking about when we say AAPI. AAPI stands for Asian American Pacific Islander. It's a distinction representing those whose ancestry and culture come from the Asian continent and the Pacific Islands of the Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia regions. In 2019, nearly 20 million Asian Americans lived in the U.S. It is the fastest growing racial or ethnic group in the country. And we start tonight off with one of the darkest periods for the AAPI community in California. Before World War II, California was home to more than 30 thriving Japantowns, but they started to disappear and gentrify when Japanese Americans were placed in internment camps. Right now, only 3 Japantowns remain in California, and now there's an effort to revitalize the bustling Japantown that was once in the capital city. Our Devin Truby has the story.
This is what Sacramento's Japantown looked like in 1940. It was a vibrant community located along 3rd, 5th, L, and O Streets. It was Amiko Amy Kamikawa's Wong playground.
I grew up right in Japantown, which is on 4th Street. It was so safe. I used to run around all over. We used to play hide and seek till 9, 10 o'clock.
But Japantown became a ghost town. Amiko remembers the exact moment the first tragedy struck.
My brother was just about to buy a house. He went to see the house on Saturday, and he was going to sign the paper on Monday, and the war started on Sunday. So, of course, we didn't buy a house.
Sunday, December 7th. Attack on Pearl Harbor, a surprise airstrike by the Japanese Navy against the United States Naval Base in Hawaii. The attack had a huge impact, especially for Japanese Americans in the United States. Just 2 months later, Japantown in Sacramento was cleared and residents were forced to go into internment camps. Kiyo Sato remembers this like it happened yesterday.
25217C was my number. I'll never forget it. It's not on here, but it's tattooed in my brain.
Taken to the internment camp in Poston, Arizona.
I just broke down and cried when that train started to move. And I said, nobody's come to save us, nobody cares.
What Kiyo remembers most is the heat, over 100 degrees, and passing out.
I thought I had died because everybody was laid out on this cot, and I still wonder how many of us didn't wake up.
And no privacy when using the restroom, no stalls, no separation by gender. They wore paper bags over their heads for a sense of privacy. At 100 years old,
I still have PTSD from this, toilet thing.
How had Japantown changed when you got back?
Well, there was no Japantown. In those days, the first generation couldn't buy home property, so their sons or somebody bought properties.
after the war, Japantown in Sacramento was able to return, and the Buddhist church that sectioned off its gym played a big role by giving families a place to stay.
And what made Japantown thrive is the fact that families lived there. Our businesses were there. It was a day and night place.
But then, For the second time, Japantown would be forced out of its own community, unable to own property and make repairs upon returning due to government-sponsored mortgage redlining policies that prohibited loans in racially integrated neighborhoods. Miriam remembers the issues her family faced when they had to move because of the redevelopment.
And we were not allowed in this area.
But all the city saw was a high concentration of people of color who they considered too risky to invest in. The area was labeled a slum, blighted, which allowed the city to cut revenue to the area. It was bulldozed for the capital redevelopment project. A wrecking ball shattered many cultures, including Japantown, for the Capitol Mall and the area we know today as Doko, and a freeway.
You didn't have the gathering places to go to.
Amiko says it was a loss of independence for her mother because she couldn't go to an English-speaking store by herself.
Well, it was kind of sad because the older folks naturally, they didn't speak English. So naturally, Japantown was perfect. You know, we had grocery stores, we had banks.
I'm here on 10th Street in the heart of relocated Japantown. Hundreds of businesses down to a handful, like Osaka-ya, trying to keep history alive. Historical remnants remain, like the Wakanora sign, even though the restaurant is no longer here.
Linda Nakatani and her family have been carrying on the Osaka-ya name since 1963. Originally on the corner of 10th, where you can still see their faded sign, they bought the historic Senator Fish Market.
And Senator Fish retired that year, so my dad said, is it okay if we buy your Senator Fish? And that's how we ended up coming here in 1997.
Keeping a Japantown storefront alive and well for over 60 years, passing on the tradition to her sons and even me for the day.
Yeah, that one's really good.
I'm pretty sure 95% that they will take over. It is a lot of work.
Besides the businesses on 10th and W, one of the only remaining buildings from Japantown is the Nisei Barber Shop and Veterans of Foreign Affairs Hall, which makes it the perfect home for the rebuilt Japantown Sacramento group to meet.
All of Japantown was gone, except for the Veterans Hall that we're standing in today.
Kobe and Jamie Katanyagi started the movement to revitalize Sacramento's Japantown. It all started with Jamie researching their family history, then realizing they have nothing to show their children. Kobe's great-grandfather immigrated from Japan and owned a print shop in the heart of Japantown.
Because my generation, we weren't really even taught anything about it. You know, it's not something that they really talked about.
The group consists of prominent Japanese Americans in the community, like Sharon Ito, former ABC 10 anchor, and this is one of their monthly strategy meetings. The dream to reclaim the heart of Japantown, the 301 capital, which is currently just a plot of grass. While the group wants to reincarnate Japantown on that land with restaurants and shops, they're also being realistic that it could be purchased and developed.
We're looking at either, a memorial for Japantown, all the way to maybe partnering with the city or with a developer to, bring in a cultural center, museum.
80 years later, we asked the Katanyagis, why push to revitalize now?
I think it's important now for many reasons. The history is almost gone. The survivors and the storytellers are almost gone. And I'm afraid that this history will be lost.
If you want to help the cause, the Rebuild Sacramento Japantown group has a Facebook page, and they say everyone is welcome to join and help them rebuild the vibrant community. While the incarceration of Japanese Americans still makes headlines today, World War II means many different things to the AAPI community. We want you to meet Ruth Jang. She's Chinese American, more than 100 years old, and is one of the few surviving World War II veterans in the Sacramento area. Ruth served in the U.S. Army Corps at a time when many women supported in the war effort on a volunteer basis. She recently reflected on the contributions of the Asian American community during the war.
I think young people should learn about history about war because there's a lot of death. If they can talk first, and then they probably won't be fighting.
Ruth, and nearly 200 Chinese American World War II veterans have been identified in the Sacramento area and honored with a Congressional Gold Medal for their contributions and service. Coming up onto the point, we head to a hidden gem in Stockton that has become an outdoor kitchen to the Hmong community.
Yeah, it's like the Asian night market afternoon.
We learn about the tasty dishes passed down from generations. But first, what does it mean being Asian American and Pacific Islander to people who live right here in Northern California? We introduce you to someone who is taking pride in their roots.
Hello, malolele. My name is Ana Taukolo. I was born and raised here in Sacramento, California, and I'm full-blooded Tongan. We're a very small island of a population of about 100,000 people. Although we are small but mighty. We are small but very articulate, educated. We are great learners, adaptable to any type of new environment. And a lot of my Tongan ancestors are able to instill that in generations to come as well. So we have a saying is Koyotua mo tonga kohoku tofi'a, which means God and Tonga are my inheritance. That's always a saying that's ingrained in our mindset, in our blood, and that's the way that we show up in any aspect of our life. And you feel that with everybody.
Welcome back. We are celebrating our diverse communities and looking at why we celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. The month of celebration actually began in the 1990s. The U.S. Congress put it on the calendar, and the month of May was chosen as a way to commemorate the arrival of the first Japanese immigrants to the U.S. There is a lot of diversity and nationalities and ethnicities within the AAPI community, and the term Asian American unifies multiple communities, underscoring their shared American identity. But each community is very different. And tonight we hear from Claire about important values in her culture that she carries throughout her life.
Hi everyone, my name is Claire Tyrone Joker-Swite. I'm on the Nisenan Territory, or Sacramento, California, and I'm Chamorro. My tata, my mom's father, was in the Air Force, so it's actually really common. A lot of Chamorros come to the mainland, Turtle Island, or United States because they're part of the military to create a better life, for their family and have more economic opportunities. A lot of Chamorros around my age or even older are really taking the time to try to reclaim our culture and learn our language. There's specifically this word tentuli, which means reciprocity. That's just an upheld value across Chamorros, across Guam and the Northern Mariana Islands, and Chamorros who are here on Turtle Island or the States as well. That value, that reciprocity extends over everything.
Coming up, food is the ingredient that brings many families together. And now a Sacramento nonprofit is hoping to capture its importance. As we celebrate our diverse communities, there's a hidden gem in Stockton that locals know is the go-to place for inexpensive but authentic Southeast Asian cuisine. So check this out. This is Angel Cruise Park in Stockton. It has become an outdoor kitchen to the Hmong community who have immigrated here from Cambodia, Vietnam, and more. They have brought with them tasty dishes passed down from generations for anyone to enjoy.
It's like Asian street food, yeah. It's like
a neighborhood gathering?
Like a neighborhood gathering, yeah. It's like the Asian night market afternoon in Angel Cruise Park in Stockton, California.
Stockton residents have been going to Angel Cruise Park for over 3 decades to enjoy this great food, and food sellers are there 7 days a week, usually beginning in the afternoon, and it gets very busy on the weekends, so make sure you plan accordingly. Now, food is the ingredient that brings many families together, and now a Sacramento nonprofit is hoping to capture the importance of preserving the Asian and Pacific Islander cultures through food in a cookbook. So ACC Senior Services has a book titled The Foods We Share, The Stories We Tell. The goal is to bring together all AAPI communities to share their personal home recipes, but to also educate and inspire people that may be unfamiliar with multiple cultures represented in this book.
Every ethnic group should do a community cookbook because that's that is like sharing some of the best parts of the culture.
The book was published in September and features around 150 recipes. When you think of martial arts, you might envision what you see on the big screen, but Filipino Americans in Stockton are hoping to change that perception by educating and preserving their culture by teaching Eskrima, which is a form of martial arts that started in the Philippines. Our Jeannie Nguyen shares how Eskrima was introduced to Stockton and what is being done to make sure that it stays an important part of the community.
This Filipino martial art is not just about weapons, it's about basically angles of attack.
It's called Eskrima.
There, see.
And it's an important part of Stockton's prominent Filipino American community. This form of martial arts is ingrained in Filipino culture, and for gurus or instructors like Carlito Bonjoc and Dexter Labanog, it represents their home in the Philippines.
The other martial arts, you train empty hand, then you move on to weapons. With us, it's different. We train with the weapon first. Then you start translating some of those movements to empty hand.
But the way it was brought to Stockton can be traced back to the 60s through a man they call Grandmaster Leo Jerome. Labanog says Jerome was introduced to Eskrima in the Philippines before coming to the United States. After coming to the States and serving in World War II, Jerome felt pulled to bring it to Stockton following a tragic event.
He always refers to the nurse stories in Chicago.
In 1966, 8 Chicago student nurses were killed, some of them Filipino. Richard Speck was convicted for the murders. It was because of this crime that inspired Jerome to bring Eskrima to Stockton. That story resonated with Michelle Joven.
I'm 66 years old. I'm a prime candidate.
And she can't help but wonder what would have happened to those 8 nurses had they had some sort of martial arts training.
If women would just learn to just fight with something like this, because you can do a lot with something on these ends. That's one of the things I carry around with me because I am not going to be a victim.
In an effort to continue to keep this Filipino tradition alive, the nonprofit organization Stockton Multi-Style Eskrima was formed, encompassing the original teachings of Jerome's style.
He would tell us about utilizing weapons that were readily available that they use every day, which was the long bolos and knife-cutting tools.
Once Jerome passed in 2002, the goal of the nonprofit was to continue his legacy for generations to come.
Young kids, the generation after and the several generations now after that, they have no connection. Their connection to our culture disappears. And so this is one thing that they can grab on.
Today, Bonjoc continues to teach. He's the founder of Matasay Baguio, teaching his own specific style of Eskrima. It's a challenge he takes on even after losing the ability to use his legs.
I couldn't participate in a lot of sports, but for some reason I was able to do Eskrima, and it improved my balance.
Eskrima classes are free to this day, and it's important it stays that way, especially as crime in Stockton continues to rise.
The way Stockton is right now, I think a lot of major cities also, there's a lot of potential to be a victim. Everybody should learn some kind of self-defense.
And while a majority of the focus of Eskrima is self-defense, the most important aspect of this is the preservation of the rich Filipino culture.
I'm proud of that, because it's part of my heritage. This is my city, this is my town. I live here, and I get to represent it. We still teach good Eskrima here.
And to make sure that Eskrima classes remain free, the organization holds an annual crab feed, and they raised $10,000 just this year. And that money goes directly to funding classes and equipment. All right, coming up, a tradition rooted in local wine, how this Japanese-American family in Lodi is still growing 3 generations strong. But first, we spoke with Kellen Lore, one of our very own photojournalists, about what it means growing up Hmong American in Sacramento.
Hello, my name is Kellen Lore. I'm a filmmaker based out of Sacramento, born and raised, and I'm Hmong American. I think for me, one thing that's unique growing up Hmong American is just the community. Growing up, my family, they tend to stay close to each other geographically. So for example, I have a lot of family out here in Sacramento, and when we get together, like the whole family shows up, and it's always nice to know that, you'll always have, family to lean on for support. AAPI Heritage Month, to me, I feel like it's a month to recognize the diversity within the Asian American, or just the Asian umbrella. There's so many of us, it's a good month to sit down and just reflect on who we are, and just remember who we are as well.
Finally tonight, we bring you the story of a Japanese-American family who are winemakers right in Lodi. So winemaking is not an industry many minorities have ventured into, but Japanese-American family is growing their roots in Lodi, and they own Mikami Vineyard and have been in the wine growing industry in our region for more than 3 generations.
You know, to think about what my grandfather had to do to come as a 13-year-old or 14-year-old boy to the United States back in 1896, to what my father had to endure during World War II, and now being able to carry on their tradition of grape growing and now producing wines, it really means a lot to be able to pass that along to my daughter.
The Mikami family lost it all after spending time in a Japanese internment camp, but they managed to survive and acquire the land where the family history stems from. And you already know, we always want to know what's going on in your world and community. Make sure you reach out to me and the team. You can always send us an email at tothepoint@abc10.com. Have a great night. Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.